back is pretty good.
I know she's got a sore muscle. Too much exercising last night and she's really got a sore muscle. Okay, this is old now.
And this is not a spring chicken. Today we're going to talk about Egyptian violence and what that means to us in the United States.
Well, it means, they said, okay, it's not violence just alone in Egypt, it's violence in Tunisia, Yemen, Lebanon. I think Jordan is being added to the list this weekend.
Why is it all we keep seeing on the news is all about Egypt?
Because most of the people they have that work for Fox News, the news people are all Greeks, and they can get into Egypt.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah. Listen to the name, Paldu, Yumargas, all of them with Greek names because they can get in and out. They're not, okay, a lot of news people are not welcome into a lot of those Muslim countries. You have to understand, the Muslim idea of a democracy is 98.6% vote for the people that's in control. Mm-hmm. Which means you have to come out and vote, and if you don't vote for the person in control, they basically whack off a thumb or something.
Only?
Only, yeah. Well, no, they basically put a finger or something that's not needed, they put into a thing of ink so it shows that you voted. But the problem is that they don't understand that, okay, Muslim, democratic elected politicians are as stupid as democratically elected politicians in other part of the world. Is called, I have a bottle of the same ink. I voted. Yeah, see?
What?
Well, no, I mean, that's how dumb they are. They think, well, if you got ink on a finger,
are you serious?
You must have voted. Yeah.
You're serious?
That's it. There's no difference, but okay, their elected officials are elected about like our officials are, which means the party says who's going to run. I mean, we're talking 40 years ago in a news department, I got in trouble with a local anchorman when I simply said, I was telling people in the newsroom that, we don't have democracy in this country. The party officials decide who's going to run, and unless there's an independent candidate running out there, which there really never is, that you can't run anybody against him. And the guy basically, he did not. He goes on the air. And names my name. He said such and such, doesn't believe in democracy in our country. He thinks that people don't have the right to vote in who they want to do. And then it comes, basically, in the middle of during the commercial, he got his ass yanked off the air. And he never came back because they explained to him that that's exactly, they don't know what world you live in. He said the average person does not have a right to choose who the candidates are. The party leaders choose the candidates, not the people. The people get to vote whom the party decides should be running. And he said, well, I didn't think it was that way. Well, they did the old apology to me, and then this guy, Mr. PP, never worked in the area again. Well, because
really?
I could have sued the hell out of him. Because he came on a newscast, live cast, and said that I was un-American, that I didn't believe in democracy. And I said that the parties ruled this country. Well, we're talking 40 years ago that we're that way. We're talking
and it's still like that.
It's not. It's been that way for God knows how long. Try running. Okay. Well, the Tea Party had to run separate candidates against Republican candidates because the Republican Party would not support anybody. I mean, you'd think that they lost Delaware because of O'Connell, that they lost Nevada because of Angle. No, they lost them because the Republican Party didn't support the candidates because they didn't nominate them, which was funny because they were both nominees from before.
What?
Yeah, they just ran. No, it's just they were all right when they picked them, but when somebody else picked them, they didn't like them. It's just,
oh, is that what it was? It almost sounds like.
Well, Republicans in the Senate, they got elected by the Tea Party, won't join the Tea Party. Mm-hmm. So but that's how it's done in the other countries. I mean, a democratically elected individual in a Muslim country is basically, he's there for life, folks. It's just like Mubarak has been there. I mean, they do have a democracy in Egypt. They've got one of the older democracies in Egypt. But they unfortunately elect the same guy to office until the same guy, their democracies always end like Muslim democracies, is that they throw the person out of office with a revolution. Oh. And this is what's happening again. Mubarak is going through the revolution process. But this time, the people that believe in democracy, who would put another strongman in power for another 30 years, are going to be overruled by, okay, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda were formed in Egypt from the Muslim Brotherhood. And they feel that the Muslim Brotherhood is going to be back in full force, that they will. I mean, here's a question. Does anybody out there, knowing how much the Egyptians worship life and afterlife, think the Egyptians would destroy the Museum of Antiquity?
They wouldn't at all.
I mean, these people wage decades-long battle,
I mean,
to get things back.
That's one of those, like, one of those atrocious, like, unforgivable things is to destroy antiquities.
But the Muslims, like the Ayatollah Khomeini, those people don't believe in that stuff. They want a strict reading of the Quran. You have to understand that they're strict reading the Quran. If you strictly read the Bible, worship no deity before me. Which means those things that the Catholics and all the other churches have in the churches to worship God, that's a no-no, folks. And basically, you put any of that stuff up in front of a conservative Muslim, they'll tear it down. It's got to do because that is the strict reading of the Quran and the strict reading of the Bible. Worship no deity before me. It's the same in both languages, folks. Because
even if the image is supposed to represent,
they don't want that image. That image is not supposed to be. I mean, that's why there is no real image of Jesus and no real image of God. There's no real image of Muhammad. There are no real images, but these people were around in a time when they did have the ability to draw people and paint them. But there are no images. Why? Because of that cute little saying that basically drifts over into both of the holy things. No image. So
what does all of this eruption in Egypt mean to us in the United States?
It means that we're likely dealing with at least five heavily Muslim countries very shortly that were supporters of America. And it means
actually, that's a lot. 5?
5, and they're just like a domino, like
Well, the UN's already predominantly Muslim.
Predominantly Muslim, but during the reason why the French stayed in Indochina and why we got involved in Indochina was because of the domino effect. If one country was to fall to the communists, another country in the area fell, which is exactly what happened just as soon as we pulled out. But when we're out, we will be chased out of Egypt. The Yemenis don't particularly like it to begin with, but in Jordan we're fairly welcome. Lebanon we're fairly welcome.
Well, actually we were. We don't know if that's changing.
No, but we won't be welcome under the new administrations.
Yeah.
We will not, because they're going to be heavily Muslim in nature, and we're becoming less and less welcome in Turkey as it becomes more religious oriented. Their constitution directly prohibits the religious figures from taking control. And they're taking control because the court system is packed with their people, and they're becoming increasingly anti-American. They control the entrances into Saudi Arabia, to Iraq, to Yemen, all those things that aren't.
Oh, that's why we're probably there in Turkey in the first place.
We're in Turkey because we have military bases there that allow us to get into countries that we're not allowed to fly over or come through most Muslim countries. So in order to get into those countries, we have to come through Turkey.
Oh, actually, this would be pretty disastrous then.
Yeah, and Turkey is already on. Turkey is not having riots because Turkey is just slowly, okay, the difference between the Turks and the rest of the Muslims is the Turks tend to be a lot smarter. They're doing it incrementally becoming a Muslim nation. And they're doing it right in front of people, and so actually the Turks are still making money too, so the other countries aren't. They did say that they figure that Saudi Arabia will be on the tilt list because the people in Saudi Arabia don't have any money.
But I thought Saudi Arabia was very wealthy.
Yeah, the rulers are wealthy.
Oh,
and they big, beautiful cities that only the wealthy can basically use. Remember, the wealthy have so much money they become like Osama bin Laden, that they can use their money to cause problems. They don't give up. I mean, anybody seriously believe that bin Laden was alive? He's living in a cave in Pakistan. No, the guy was a wealthy person. The guy was used to the best. His family was used to the best. If he's alive, he's sitting probably in, in a Riviera or someplace like that.
I know. I was talking to someone yesterday. We were talking about real estate, and they said, "Why is it in China that there's a lot of really poor people, and then there's some very wealthy people?" Because apparently here in Southern California, there was a home that was sold for $20 million cash.
Yeah.
And they were surprised. They're like, how come some people have so much more money in China? And I said, well, why is that different than most of the other countries in the world? And then all of a sudden they stopped and they're like, oh, yeah.
Remember, socialism, communism, and changing over to a strictly Muslim rule doesn't change the fact that the power is all invested in the people at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Because it works this way: you have to have somebody to run things.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever run things always insulates themselves from the people that aren't running things so that they can better run things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the people at the top always have more money. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's no, I mean, how many times have you seen an American president that was broke when he left office?
Oh, actually, they tend to do very well.
They tend to do very well.
Especially this president will have done very well since he's been in
like this
office.
president, I think like $300 or $400 million he's got to have when he leaves office. But virtually every president might enter office not wealthy, but there's no such thing, I think, as a president that leaves it. I mean, in Great Britain, for instance, no one really knows because you can toss a prime minister out in Great Britain 30 days after he's elected.
Really?
Well, they have no confidence. Okay, the way it is, Great Britain doesn't have riots for the one simple reason. They have a parliamentary procedure that allows for an election every 30 days if they want to have one.
Well, actually, that's probably really good then. That's a way to prevent riots, isn't it?
Yeah, but they have huge knockdown, drag-out battles in the Hall of Parliament, though. So.
Oh, and then they also have riots for football.
Yeah, they are right at football, but they don't burn down buildings. They don't do this. They don't do that.
They don't destroy their museums.
They don't destroy their museums. In France, they do all of the above. In Germany, they do all of the above. In Scandinavia countries, they do all of the above. In Spain, they do all of the above. Basically, you name the country. Japan is that way. Japan will basically have huge riots plus big fights in their parliament. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, because they don't like the parliament. They elect the parliament to stop spending, and they immediately raise taxes and start spending again. So, Australians do the same thing.
Not to say that's only in Japan, because, well, we just...
No, it's just when you elect, when anyone is elected to office, they automatically feel they have no relationship with the people that elected them.
Yeah, what is the deal with that?
Because they get the power that they wield. I mean, like corruption. It's why. Okay, let's put it this way. New York City had term limits on the mayorship. Rudy Giuliani wanted to stay on another month or so, to make things work after 9/11. No, because Bloomberg said no. I'm been elected to the office. Term limits are essential to make certain democracy works. 3 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, Bloomberg decided he wasn't going to pay any attention to term limits because we're in such a struggle with the economy. Which is worse, the economy or all these thousands of people get killed? Well, he felt the economy was, because remember, Bloomberg is one of the richest men in the world too, folks. So, and as there, he could micromanage how much money he's making. But he basically stayed on, even though he broke the city rules, and basically the city courts agreed with him. But as it reaches through the system now, and the system is going to rule that term limits are legally constitutional. If the state puts them in, they're legal.
Part of it is by the time they go through it, hasn't he almost served?
Oh yeah, but he decided that term limits are very important, and he doesn't think that But my situation was such a relevant thing that I had to ignore the term limit rule. But
yeah, but it's not like you can undo him being in office all the time.
No, but he now says that it was a mistake. Yeah, after he's ready to leave office and after he knows that they're getting ready to say he had no legal right to do it. But that's how it works. When you get to be in power, you don't want to lose power. That's how that works, folks.
Just ask Putin.
Yeah, Putin basically jury-rigged things around so he could be still in charge. Like this Medvedev has no control over anything. I mean, basically...
He's a figurehead.
He's a figurehead. Putin is a KGB official. And he's basically, the old Soviet is back. They never left. They just changed the way they did business. They put on, it's just like the Chinese no longer wear suits like the Mao suits. They don't dress like the Iranians, and they act and speak like everybody else in the country because they've learned how to play television now.
Ah.
That's right. You want to look like you're like everybody else.
See, and you thought it was just our senators and congressmen?
Okay.
No.
You tell me, if you can see difference, any differences whatsoever on the streets, you know, of Cairo, of the people riding and the police, and the people in Portugal, the people in Spain, the people in Greece, the people in Italy, the people in France, there's no difference. They all look exactly the same. When the politicians go out and talk about, you know, try to talk to the people, their politicians all look like our politicians because they've learned how to play the game. The people that actually run things in those countries are basically the guys that still wear the, you know, they all look like they're with the Mao suits in China, the little, you know, like they've got the turtlenecks in Iran, you know, in all the countries basically the power base is still the same, but the people they have putting out there the face of the power base all looks like everybody else. It's all public relations.
So we understand Egypt and all these countries are going through it. There's a couple things that we've been talking about when it comes to news, and that is well, I guess the military spending, or excuse me, military cuts
are okay.
Are not going to happen.
They're talking that basically, okay, the President of the United States, for one, he wanted to destroy, he wanted to basically eliminate the use of fuel in our country, you know, diesel fuel. The problem, our fossil fuel. Our military runs on fossil fuel, folks. So that got wiped out real quick in the last few days. He also wanted to cut back on all of this. We wanted it, well, the Democrats will never cut spending on entitlements, but they'll cut spending on the military until there's nothing left.
Oh.
And they intended to, with Gates' assistance, because Gates would basically figure out a plan to downsize the military to just a, you know, very small fighting unit.
But you can't do that now with this happening all over the world.
It's they're screwed because last night they were announcing that Gates' 5-year plan to siphon money out is gone because instead of siphoning money out, we got to put more money in. They, you know, the Democrats are in charge. The last 2 years, there's been nothing done to improve the military. It's stagnant again. And if you don't continually improve, I mean, they're not even maintaining.
Now, what happens to oil production?
Oil production, they're still fighting tooth and nail not to have oil production go up in our country, but they're going to they're going to start blowing the wells. I have to understand that too. The pure people that are running these revolutions don't care about money. All they're concerned about is turning the country back to a time that never existed. You know, it's just actually the Republicans and the pure people in the Muslim world are a lot alike because Republicans want to return this country to a pastoral time when there was respect for people and there was no abortions and there was no overspending. Well, there were abortions when my mother was young, there were abortions when my great-grandmother was young. And
there will still be abortions in the next decades ahead.
And those great idyllic days that they think of never existed. You know, the time when everything was milk and honey? No. Until like after World War II, you didn't have a whole lot of pleasure time. Your idea of pleasure was basically getting off work, having dinner with your family. If you were lucky, you had a Nickelodeon in your area, or you could go see somebody perform at a music hall. And then you'd come back like at 8 o'clock and go to bed.
Oh, really?
Well, all they had was, I mean, I come from the age of crystal radios, which people don't remember. Most people couldn't afford radios because they were big god awful expensive. So my father built crystal sets, which you could basically pick up, if you're going to
pick up a signal.
You could pick up a signal, yeah. Because a lot of stations didn't, today like they have a 5,000 watt thing. They used to have a million. They broadcast halfway across the United States, but. There was nothing that you could do in leisure time. Today we've got television, you have radio, you have DVDs, you can download movies, all these things you can do. But they think the Republicans with their pastoral thing and the strictly Muslim people, they, basically a miserable life when the Muslims ruled the Middle East.
Why?
Well, because they basically, everybody was in, there was slavery. Women were basically kept, like they say, chattel to the men. There were no rights, and they would behead people, cut people's hands off.
That doesn't sound very good to me.
No, but that's what they want to return to because they think that was the greatest time. But these are people that lived in this time, thinking that a time that never existed. Well, they actually believe this thing. 50 virgins. Yeah. That never.
But see, that's a way that they're in common with actually with people here, is that they believe that you know, what is it? The grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
It was always better than
it was
before.
always better. I mean, I remember here's a guy. You know, great actor, Academy Award-winning actor, wrote "The Green Green Grass of Home," and I'll be home for Christmas even if I'm there only in my mind. The problem was that, you know, he was injured World War II. His friends, you know, went back to Pittsburgh and they looked. There was no grass anywhere. There'd never been any grass. The guy lived in among coal slag. You know, I mean, there's the dump. That's basically the dump. They jump out after they do the coal mining, you know, and the processing, and you know, that never existed. And his, you know, I'll be home for Christmas. They never had a Christmas in his home. It was all in his mind. Everything, all the poetry he wrote, he would tell to the soldiers in the foxholes. None of it ever existed, but that's how he remembered it. And it never happened. And that's, unfortunately, that's Republicans and strict Muslims remember something that never happened. It's in a book somewhere. It's just, you know, like the Bible is basically a lot of prophecies. It's not really written history. It's more what's going to. Some of it's history, some of it's just basically what people think is going to happen. So they're all thinking about things that never were. There's nothing written in stone that says that 5,000 years ago the Muslims had the greatest entertainment empire in the world, and there was much leisure time for all Muslims. Well, they had slaves back in those days, and they enslaved other Muslims besides. I mean, let's put it this way: no matter what you want to say, the Jews and the Muslims are the same people. It's just different tribes.
Different tribes are siblings.
Yeah, they're different tribes. I mean, like the
brothers and sisters.
I mean, the Battlestar Galactica has to do with like the 12 tribes leading out. What happened was World War II had to do as much with one tribe of Jews killing off other tribes of Jews.